hot seat. I'm Meg Meurer, and I'm really excited for our episode today. We're going to spend some time talking about e-commerce in transportation. And we have a great guest today with us, Mitch Millstein. Mitch, welcome to the show.
Hey, Meg, thanks for having me. We know each other, so this is like getting back together.
Awesome. Well, Mitch, you have such a great background. Not only are you a professor of supply chain and analytics at the University of Missouri St. Louis, but you also own a consulting organization called Supply Velocity. So maybe as an introduction to our audience today, you can share a little bit more about your background, what you do at the University of Missouri St. Louis, and also more about Supply Velocity as well.
Oh, great, sure. As my wife has heard me say many times, I have two jobs, and the reason I get away with handling those two jobs is they're pretty synergistic. At the university, we do supply chain and analytics. I do research. A lot of it is in e-commerce, which we're going to talk about. Of course, I teach classes in supply chain and analytics. And then I do a lot of work in industry engagement, trying to make sure companies that are in the greater Midwest region are interacting with our university. Of course, that's the goal for our students when they actually get to meet industry professionals and see how supply chain and analytics really works. For Supply Velocity, we consult in that area. So we consult on supply chain, operations management, lean, inventory, supply chain network design, all of those kind of things that we teach. So I get both. Now, supply chain is a broad topic, and we do a number of areas of it at Supply Velocity. So, I can go through the whole roll down later
Yeah.
of what we do.
E-commerce is a big topic and certainly has seen a lot of changes over a fairly short period of time. Not only the Amazon impact in e-commerce, but also COVID, right? And the impacts of COVID in e-commerce. I think it was really interesting just to see inventory supplies and how inventory had diminished over a period of time. Now there's been a normalization. But I followed a lot of different economists and different research institutions, KPMG. I know you produce a lot of your own research in-house as well. But I found it to be really interesting that the e-commerce market expected growth annual compound rate was nearing 15%. And that's from 2020 to 2027. And it's supposed to normalize in 25, but still high single digits. So it's really seen a lot of growth over the years. It's certainly been a major growth vertical for a lot of transportation and logistics organizations. So really excited to dive in. I guess I'll kick it off with e-commerce in general is moving really fast. So what's the latest? What's the future? And really, how do you view e-commerce affecting transportation moving forward?
E-commerce has a lot of aspects, and I'm going to go deep right away for everybody and talk about some of the things that lie just under the surface of that term e-commerce. And so when you think about e-commerce, everybody thinks about the traditional, I'm buying something online, it's getting shipped to me either as a business or as a consumer.
Sure.
But there's different ways of doing it and different things that are important about it to transportation companies and supply chain in general. And one is the ways that it happens. So one way that it happens is called buy online, pick up in store. And we call that BOPS because it sounds cute. But buy online, pick up in store, think of that as it's online, but we outsource the transportation to the consumer. So it's an online order, but somehow companies got really smart and they convinced people to go pick it up at the store, and therefore they don't have to pay the transportation and try to pass along that cost. So BOPS is important. It's really active, and it's getting a lot of research as to sort of why does it in fact happen. And we could talk about that if you want. Maybe the biggest thing that's been happening in the last 4 years, although you could argue 5, is same day shipping.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And so this is that immediacy. People want it now. Now, some reasons for wanting it now are really important. You're a hockey player and you're playing a hockey game, that afternoon, and you just broke your favorite stick in warm-ups, and you got 2 hours before the game starts. You want your favorite stick. You do a same-day shipping, 2-hour guaranteed, and voila, you have the stick at the rink. You could also have 3 screaming kids, and you need a tub of ice cream delivered to your house via a drone. and that takes care of the screaming kids. So that might be an equally important reason to do same day shipping.
I
But
fall in
that
that
is,
bucket, and I love that space. So the convenience of having things quickly is amazing when you have small kids at home.
yes, it's going to get quicker. So, although there's a lot of things that the government has to do to sort of back off a little on regulation,
Mhm.
if it's going to happen via drone, but it doesn't have to be drone. It could be bicycle. You go to major cities and there's people riding bicycles all over the place,
Yeah.
and they're doing same day shipping. I think we think drone
Mhm.
because it's a lot of fun and there's a lot of opportunity out there, but not yet.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
Another big, I guess, one more thing that I want everybody to be aware of, and this is newer, this is in fact very new, is this concept called dark stores. And that's, as you talked about, that growth rate is growing and growing. Where it levels out, we don't know. We can't
Mhm.
predict that.
Yeah.
Um, but at a certain point, you got to ask yourself, do I really use that store as a traditional store? We call it a light store.
Okay.
Or because we're doing so much online demand, I'm going to turn off maybe a quarter of my stores and I'm going to make them a dark store. Now, they're not really dark, but what we do with them is we leave them in place because they're in great locations, really
Okay.
close to consumers or customers. But we're going to turn them into mini warehouses so we can put
Hmm.
the shelving close to each other. And basically, we make it look like a warehouse, and that's called a dark store.
Okay.
Same day shipping, drone launch pad,
Hmm.
and possibly a buy online, pickup in store, pick up in the store parking lot
Uh-huh.
application. So that dark stores is something that we are going to see, particularly probably in the grocery space, and that is a current research topic that I have.
Oh.
Um, Beyond that, a couple of other things that I think are important to know, which is ship from store or ship from warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
It's really popular now. Lots of companies are doing ship from store.
Mm-hmm.
There's a ton of downsides to doing that. And we predict over time, based on our modeling, that more and more that's going to happen less. Stores will turn into dark stores and we'll have more what we call ship from warehouse because stores typically are kind of expensive to run and they have good real estate. And so they're expensive to lease
Yep.
as opposed to a warehouse that's a little farther out in an industrial park. So ship from store, ship from warehouse, those are all things I think transportation companies at least need to be conversant in talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So brick and mortar, we've seen a lot of changes over COVID, right? From shopping centers and malls being really no one's in them, right? Just being completely empty to now more of them have shut down. And it feels like now when we go to a shopping center or a mall, that they are busy again. How do you view the future of brick and mortar on e-commerce and the conversation at large?
I was ready for this question.
Well, good.
And you're ready? I
Yeah.
I don't. I don't. I was
Okay.
thinking about this. We can't predict what's going to happen. So
Yeah,
I think there's been a leveling out of e-commerce.
absolutely.
There was the skyrocket, it shot up, and now it's been sort of, it's quite honestly going down to maybe more normalized levels where you would expect it to be. Still up from 3 or 4 years ago, but not at that same growth rate that we were experiencing. And so all I can tell you is for the folks that are smart about this, they're modeling multiple scenarios. So
Mhm.
we model growth in e-commerce. So when we're trying to design a supply chain, e-commerce supply chain network, Meg, we're modeling 10%. Not this is actually percent of total retail. So we're modeling it's going to be 10% of total retail. It's currently a little bit higher than that. We model 20%, 30, 40, 50, up to 90,
Mm,
where almost nobody actually goes to the stores, but
sure.
not completely.
Yep.
We don't know where it's going to be, but one of my colleagues, and you know him, James Campbell, he said
Okay.
maybe we should model where we are now, really high growth rates or really high percent of total retail, and then what happens if it comes back down.
Sure.
So when there's the next pandemic, we
Mm,
kind of know what's going to happen.
yeah.
Maybe it's a good idea for companies to know ahead of time what they should
Sure.
be doing with their transportation and warehouse network temporarily,
Oh,
because it
that's
turns out it's
yeah.
not permanent. So if everybody
Yeah.
reacted to COVID e-commerce rates and pretended that that was going to be the future from now on and more of it, well, it turns out they were pretty wrong.
Sure.
And so they might have done things that really could have destroyed their network, like what you saw, companies shutting down stores. People want to go back to stores.
Yep.
The ones that stuck with it are doing well. The ones that closed up, maybe not so well.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's great. As a consumer, I also think about the need for standardization of the return process. So when I think e-commerce, a big pain point as a consumer that I always think about or deal with is there's no standardization against the return policies, right, at all these different retailers. And that can always be problematic or frustrating, I think, to deal with as well. So I feel like there's a market gap there that in the e-commerce space, someone to come in and really play ball.
But by the way, if you think you as a consumer have problems with returns, the companies that the
Absolutely.
retailers,
Yeah.
e-commerce or brick and mortar,
Yeah.
you want problems. Whoever solves the return process on the supplier side
Sure.
is going to reap tremendous rewards. I think the only people that should like the whole return aspect of e-commerce are, of course, all the transportation companies, because instead of going full to the store,
Yeah.
they can go full to the store and backhaul with
Sure.
a little something in the trailer. So some of the people that might be watching this are like, "Yep, returns,
Yeah.
like more
Absolutely.
of it.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not going back empty." But
Absolutely.
besides that, it's a, how do I say this, total disaster, except for the transportation companies.
Yeah. Exactly. No, I think that's fair. So, how does Amazon figure into e-commerce as it continues to change not only transportation at large, but the economy as well? How do you view Amazon fitting into the e-commerce space moving forward?
I'm gonna. I have a code word for Amazon. I call them the Big A.
Okay.
You can go wherever you want to with that one.
Okay.
Um, and and here's what I would say to everybody that's watching. I would assume, if I was you, they're doing everything right. They're doing network design right. They're doing truck routing right. They have hundreds of people like me. I'm not saying there's anything special about me, but I've got a lot of industry experience and I'm a pretty good mathematician.
Hmm.
And in the world of Amazon, there's nothing special about me. They've got people that are far, I mean, more amazing mathematicians. They've
Hmm.
got people that are better industry practitioners. They've got so many great people running around that company, optimizing everything about how they run their business.
Yeah.
And so if we're competing with them or working with them and integrating, well, how do I say this? They're either your competitor or at best they're your frenemy. And and
Sure.
and and I bet a lot of transportation companies listening are in the frenemy camp, because
Yeah.
inevitably you're somehow going to be working with them. So just assume. And by the way, I know there's a lot of what I like to call cockamamie things that every company does, including Amazon. But assume that they're doing things as optimally as they could. So then that kind of looks to you and says, well, what do I do? And of course, you'll always be successful competing against Amazon because there's things that you could do that they can't.
Hmm.
But you can't ignore some of the things that they're doing, which is putting their depots in the optimal locations,
Sure.
their warehouses in the optimal locations, cubing out their trucks.
Hmm.
You're not going to match their software, but you got to have something. You got to be legit when
Hmm.
it comes to using advanced systems. And I want to talk more about that later if we have time,
Sure.
because I think there's a total misunderstanding about artificial intelligence and the sort of you must be doing it.
Mm.
That's nuts. But I'll talk about how actually you can do it. And it's not going and downloading ChatGPT, but we'll get more into that later if you want. Don't go download ChatGPT and say I'm using AI. That's not going to work. But you have to do something. And so a lot of the work that we do with our clients, and I got to watch here because we actually got a call from Amazon. So for the first, I used to look at them like we help our clients compete against Amazon. That was a big part of what we did at Supply Velocity. I actually got a call from them, so it's possible they could be a client.
Now a customer. Yeah. Exactly.
Um, and they'll be a client, not a friend of me. I want to go if in case they see this.
Optimistic.
Um, but you have to use systems that make you at least stay current. You're not going to match them, but
Yeah.
can you be at 75%? You can't ignore it. So whether it's software or consulting firms, or whatever it is that you're doing, or selling to the right buyer, or knowing the right time to sell, or knowing the right time to buy and beef up your economies of scale,
Sure.
you can't ignore what they're doing and just say, well, and by the way, no put down here, but this old standard is, well, I've got better people and I offer better service. And you're right, you do.
Hmm.
That's not enough anymore. You've got to be doing some sort of optimization of whatever it is in your business. Again, using either consulting, software, or a combination of the two. So that's a lot of the work that we do on our consulting side, is
Sure.
helping our mid-sized clients compete by giving them some level of advanced capability when it comes to all of the different ways that Amazon optimizes their business. So we help them do it too.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great segue to dive a little bit deeper on supply velocity. I also know you've done some really neat projects around, repositioning warehouse space and driving efficiencies in actual warehouse and distribution centers. So maybe dive a little bit deeper into supply velocity and some of the service offerings that you have at that organization.
Oh, great. Well. Thank you. So, I mean, we help companies with sort of good old fashioned stuff too, right? So we help them with how to lay out your warehouse, and we help them with streamlining their processes. Then we go a little higher up on the sophistication level. And by the way, that is the base of our business. And so everybody still needs block and tackling capability when it comes to supply chain and operations management. We
Sure.
go a little higher and we get into planning. And by that, I mean things like sales and operations planning, where we're really trying to understand our forecast.
Hmm.
By the way, I don't care what you do. I've got this workshop, by the way, that I do for an executive group called Vistage. It's a 3-hour workshop. And one of the things that we talk about is forecasting. And a lot of people go, well, I can't possibly forecast my business. And I'm like, hey, you got people? Do you have equipment? That means that you believe you're going to be in business more than like next week. So you actually forecasted, you just don't know that you forecasted. So you know what? Let's try being good at forecasting, or maybe the least bad that we can be at forecasting. So
Sure.
so we do a lot of work with planning. We do a lot of work with inventory planning.
Hmm.
And then we go up to the next level to optimization. And that's where we're helping companies with whether it's routing optimization for vehicles, like you said, we call it network
Hmm.
optimization,
Sure.
which is where do you stage your depots, warehouses, factories. That's basically kind of what that comes down to.
Hmm.
And there's a combination of experience when it comes to that, and then some more advanced mathematical techniques to say these are the best possible locations. We did a project for a investment firm in, of all places, England, and it was and they were actually leasing warehouse space, so they were trying to optimize their network for their customers based on same day shipping.
Okay.
And I think they were trying to justify, like, how close to the city can we get and still
Yeah.
sell it as a good deal for our investors and also our customers, knowing that people want things in 2 hours more and more.
Yeah.
So those are kind of the things that we do. We do again. We do block and tackle process improvement. We do more advanced planning, and then we do the most advanced level, optimize your entire process and network.
Wonderful. I think it's a great overview. Thank you. So I'll end with a curveball question here. What came first? Was it the consulting organization, or was it your work in the academia side of things?
All right. Well, I'm going to answer a way that you not think, and actually, I'm going to blend a little bit more of AI into it somehow because
Oh
it's a
yeah, sure.
topic
Yeah,
I
please.
I I, I love talking about. All right.
Yeah.
I turned 40 years old. This is a while ago. I
Okay.
turned 40 years old and I had a midlife crisis. I wanted to do academic research and teach, but I also wanted to learn how to be a mixed martial artist.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So I don't know if this actually answers your question, but I learned how to be a mixed martial artist. And so I do a lot of boxing and grappling and
Wow, I didn't
jujitsu.
know
And
that about you. Okay.
oh, it's a great stress reliever. Although,
Yeah.
as my friends in MMA like to say, it's better to give than receive
Yeah.
when when it comes to
To
that.
that. Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
And
that's fun.
I also got a PhD. So I actually was living in the two parts of the world of I was going to school doing math, advanced mathematics classes, and that was during the day, and at night I was grappling and punching and enjoying a good workout with my workout partners.
Very cool. That's awesome. So, any final comments on AI that you want to hit on before we wrap today?
This is really important, and I think, as I mentioned earlier, people talk about it like you got to do it,
Hmm.
and if you don't do it, you're going to be sunk. And then how how do you integrate? Oh, you got to integrate it into your business, and there's endless. The way you're going to integrate it into your business is the exact way that you integrate it now. It's going to be software companies are going to do the integration for you, and you're not going to know that you're using AI. And you're doing this now. Again, route optimization is in a lot or every transportation management system. If you go to a warehouse, and I know this is mostly transportation,
Hmm.
order selectors are being routed through the warehouse optimally. That's artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, fine, go to ChatGPT and learn how to do it. My students are trying to learn how to do it so they can have it do their homework for them. That doesn't work, by the way, with my classes, but good try. Um, so that's how you're going to do it. You're going to buy software. They're going to integrate it for you, and it's going to work. Because just saying I'm going to do AI, you're going to spend a lot of time, get really frustrated. You need some amazing programmers.
Yeah.
Let the programmers bring it to you, and that's how it's going to happen in your business. And all of a sudden, you're going to get faster at what you're doing. Going to put people out of work. It's going to allow you to do more. So productivity will rise.
Yeah.
And again, just like everybody says, new jobs are going to happen. Growth will happen in the economy. It really will be remarkable. And there's nothing to fear. And if you're scared of how to do it, don't be. Just talk to your software company and make sure they're doing it.
I love the positive ending. Thank you so much, Dr. Millstein, for being with us. Really appreciate your time today and certainly appreciate your perspective too. That'll do it for the hot seat today. Thank you.